All right, folks, welcome into a special edition, primetime edition of the Last Word on Sports Media podcast as we do this live via social media, and perhaps you're hearing us after the fact on the pod feed here of LWOS Media Podcast. I am TJ Rives. He is the co-host of this pod, and on this feed, Mike Gill. Good to be with you on election night. Hey, is there anything going on? I think you and I both agree right now. We don't have to agree politically on how we voted. Thank God the political ads are over, my friend. Thank God I get to see you do this and we talk sports and we don't have any more political ads during our sporting events because like the last 6-8 weeks, my Lord, good to be with you, Mike Gill.
Yeah, the ads have been brutal, especially we have a Senate race in Pennsylvania as well. So we're getting double the hammer here. And I don't live in Pennsylvania, but our cable is a Philadelphia outlet. So I'm getting the Pennsylvania ads, even though I can't vote.
So Mike is sitting back going, can we just get back to the game? I can't even vote in this race that you're showing me over and over again.
I'm seeing one right now. It's a guy named Dave McCormick against Bob Casey, neither one of which I can vote for, and yet just getting right hand, left hand.
And I have to ask on the live show, the polls are open till 8 Eastern because in a lot of parts of the Eastern time zone, they're done at 7 Eastern. So if you're still running ads and the polls are closed, what's up with that on election night?
Ours are 8 o'clock here in New Jersey. My polling station was about a block from my house. I went. It was about a 20-minute wait.
All right.
Pretty cordial, very civil. Yeah, in and out.
Welcome to election day and election night. And a lot of people early voted. Mike, over 60 million people early voted. Mrs. Rives and I'm showing this to the video audience, voted at the polling place this afternoon about 3 p.m. in North Tampa. No real wait there, but they were anticipating late this afternoon that it would be much, much busier here. So we're well aware that it is election night. We don't talk politics on this show. We talk sports media. However, can we have some fun with like political phrases that you only hear on election night? Like too close to call, Mike. Too close to call is a total political thing. How many times are we going to hear too close to call? It better not be a drinking game, and I don't drink. But, I mean, too close to call is like one of those things that you only hear politicals say. What about did better with women? Did better with women. We hear that's the only thing we hear in election season. Did better with women. Did better with. It's appropriate, I guess, to say it did better with women. When you're a single guy, when you're a teenage boy, you want to do better with women.
Well, this is one of the few nights of the year where any sporting event is getting beat in the ratings. This is
no
one
doubt.
night where we talk ratings. The sports are going to lose tonight.
Big time
of the election, but we haven't seen a lot of ratings, because college football weekend, I haven't seen any of the ratings.
It's very strange
going out.
What does that say? Does that say maybe that they weren't that good for Saturday across the board? But I find it strange. Nobody's broken ranks to tell us what Ohio State, Penn State did 72 hours ago, Mike, on Fox. I have to believe that was a 10 million audience for that game won by Ohio State. Is James Franklin ever going to win a big game? I mean, he's won like one in his entire tenure. You're in a Penn State region up there, market up there.
Yeah, very disliked. James Franklin's one of those guys that it very comparable to like Mark Richt in Georgia for the college football fans.
Right.
He's a great recruiter, great program, but just can't win that big game. And it's like, does Penn State want to be the team that is always the third team? They've always been the third team in the Big Ten. They entered this week as the first team in the Big, 18 now?
Yeah.
And couldn't get it done again. At home, lost the game as a favorite. If not this year, when? Not a great Ohio State team. A good Ohio State team.
Well, remember, he lost to Ohio State a few years ago when he had the list. He had the list of all the excuses of everybody else has to do something else if we're going to win these games. He didn't pull a list out in the post-game press conference this time with the media as they just lost again. And by the way, I am aware.
He got into it with some fans as well, James Franklin, walking off the field, and he got into a shouting match with one of the student fans, a la Nick Sirianni here. So it's been
that never ends well.
Yeah, it's been a contentious week,
TJ,
with Philadelphia athletes, former and current, and some of the stuff that's been going on. We're going to get into that. But yeah, I'm interested because I don't know if you heard this. During the college game day show, they were at Penn State and the fans were chanting bleep big noon because they were saying that this game should have been played in prime time at night. And the student body there were agreeing that they were not happy to be at that game at noon.
It is interesting. ESPN was there trying to hijack the whole big noon thing from Fox with their pregame and showing the game live. They both pregame shows were there. We'll talk more about that with the ratings here in a little bit. Anyway, thank you for finding us. Again, we're on social media here with my Twitter handle at Buck Sideline Guy, Mike Gill's Twitter handle, Mike Gill Show, and also on YouTube on Mike's YouTube page. All of that live. And again, in podcast form, wherever you find the Last Word on Sports Media podcast feed while we talk these different topics. Coming up, we're going to talk Monday Night Football. We're going right back to you, Mike, for this situation with the reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer that wrote some stuff about Joel Embiid's family in criticism of him, and Embiid got physical. Olivia Newton-John, 45 years ago, the late Olivia Newton-John sang, "Let's get physical." I'm not going to sing it. Embiid got physical with a reporter, and there have been repercussions from this. And I want Mike's insight on all of that. That's coming up. So thank you for finding us. Follow, subscribe. Do you want to go to that first before I talk Monday Night Football? Because Embiid has now been suspended. When did that suspension come down? Because my days are all running together. Did that come down today or yesterday?
About 2 hours ago, Shams
right.
Charania of ESPN reported that he will be suspended for 3 games. This has been a wild story. So Saturday night, Embiid, of course, has not played at all. Which has caused a lot of controversy. The league fined the team $100,000 for Embiid not playing. They're saying, why isn't he playing? He played in the Olympics. They're saying there's no further injury. Why is he not playing? They said he's just not ready to go. The team got fined because of the way they worded his injury. The columnist, Marcus Hayes, who is a old school newspaper guy, he's a columnist. He's tough. He's not one of these new age kind of, fanish beat reporters. He's a columnist, and he still believes in like the old school ways, which is the way really it should be, right? And he's a controversial reporter at times. He's been, in the middle of a lot of these things. He writes a column basically mentioning Joel Embiid's late brother and his son, who shares the same name. And he is saying Embiid does not want to play. He was not ready to play because he doesn't want to play. And on Friday, Embiid held an impromptu press conference and basically called him out, saying, "I've done too much for this city to be treated like that." And he kind of left it at that. Saturday, the game comes, and then the reporters in the locker room.
I was going to ask. Marcus was not at the Friday event, correct?
No.
But he was there Saturday. Continue.
So Embiid starts shouting with him, and he said, "Leave my family out. You can say I suck. I don't care about that." To which, according to reports of people in the locker room, I was not in the locker room, but according to people who were in the locker room, Hayes responded and said, "But you do care." To which Embiid then shoved him. Now, there are various reports on the level of a shove. It was kind of, did he push him in the shoulder? Did he, I don't think it was a.
Well, here's all I know.
Where you fall down.
Embiid is, as I like to say, a very large human being. I mean, every bit of 6'10", maybe closer to 7 foot.
He's 7'2", about 200.
All right. Whatever we want to believe, significantly larger than this columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And had he wanted to, he's a first-round Mike Tyson KO knockout upcoming against this guy. So did I want a couple more of the particulars in this. Did others break it up? Was it only just the little shove and then the PR got between? What happened here?
From what I understand, the PR kind of got involved. The media was waiting to talk to Maxey, who is next to Embiid's locker. And when this happened, everyone was kind of like, now what? And the PR kind of got involved. And I think they ended up moving Maxey took somebody else outside. From what I understand, the general manager, Elton Brand, and the president, Daryl Morey, apparently apologized to the reporter. Now, I will say locally, the reporter has been getting pretty much slammed by people saying, how did the editor of the Philadelphia Inquirer allow that to get in the paper? That you should not bring someone's family into his performance.
Especially a dead family member. He's got a dead family member that you're invoking that to be representing your brother when you go out and play. And I agree, that's crossing the line. But then again, back to Olivia Newton-John and her spandex, should you get physical? Let's get physical. No, I don't know that I agree with that.
I don't think anybody's in the right here. The columnist goes overboard, bringing the family in, and he was trying to equate it to Embiid's brother passed away in a car accident when he was a young man. I think he was 13 or 14 years old, to which Embiid at that time, if you remember, he missed his first 2 years of the NBA because of an injury. And Embiid was on the West Coast. The brother was on the East Coast. He hadn't seen him.
Mm-hmm.
And Embiid had thought about not returning to play or not even starting his career. He hadn't started at that point. And basically, he decided, I'm going to play for my brother. And the columnist was suggesting if you were going out of your way to dedicate your career to your late brother, you need to be on the – you're not fulfilling it because you're not on the court.
So, and again, that's a line you just don't cross. So the NBA has now stepped in and suspended him. Did he actually apologize? Have we smoothed this over, or are we still
I don't believe
waiting
Embiid
for that?
has. Embiid basically said, listen, if you do it again, the consequences are going to be I'm going to have to deal with them. So he's saying, well, I let you off easy this time, and if it happens again. I mean, I know Marcus a little bit. I don't pretend to be – I'm not like friends with the guy. I've had him on my radio show a few times. He is a guy who is not afraid to write a column. I think most people think he crossed the line here. People are wondering how the editor did not edit that piece out. It has since been edited out of the column, to which Marcus did take to social media and said he understands his piece got edited and can understand why people were somewhat upset. It didn't seem like hey, I crossed the line.
He didn't admit that he screwed up, but he said, I understand. And look.
No, but this is we're talking sports media here, Last Word on Sports Media. He crossed the line. Embiid obviously can't get physical. I don't think anybody's in the right here. So what do you do? I don't know. The NBA suspended him.
Has Marcus, I would love to know, has Marcus had this kind of problem with any other Philly athlete, Eagle, Philly? And so, I mean, that part right there puts my antenna up about, okay, he's trying to stir it up. And if you're trying to stir it up, you may get it in return, and it may get, I'm not saying anybody should be physically intimidated into not doing their job, but I can understand where you've upset somebody over their dead brother.
Well, I will say I saw, I think it was Antonio Daniels talking, and he said, look, this is a situation where the players are just not going to talk to this guy anymore. Like, they're going to band together. We'll see what ends up happening. Some have suggested that Marcus should not be allowed to cover the Sixers. They should not be allowed in that locker room.
That's wrong. The players shouldn't get to dictate that. That's where Adam Silver has to step in. That's where the Players Association has to step in and say, look, okay, you don't want to talk to that guy, help him out with his column. That's one thing, but we can't ban him because of something that he was expressing, because both sides have put that out there. At least that's my take. So hopefully this will be smoothed over soon, because we're going to move on to other things. Or maybe we're going to have the sequel. Are you letting me know we could have the sequel coming up?
The whole thing with Embiid has been a mess. Now, they're out west right now, so this is all happening while they're on the West Coast. He has not played yet. So when does this 3-game suspension start? The NBA said when he is eligible to play in a game. Well, he hasn't played in any games yet.
Right.
The team got fined $100,000 for not playing him in a game so far. So he apparently was supposed to play, but nothing official, tomorrow night in LA against the Clippers. They play the Clippers tomorrow. They play the Lakers on Friday. And
do we know if he's with them? We have no way of knowing right now. He is with them. So he could be in uniform as soon as tomorrow night.
Well, that was what we think he was going to play
could
tomorrow.
Have been. Could have been.
Now, he's already said he's not playing in any back-to-backs this year. That's already been pretty much decided. Paul George, by the way, who signed this offseason, he played his first game last night because of injury, and they were supposed to appear together, I guess, for the first time tomorrow night. That's not happening, I guess, because Embiid's suspended. They also play the Lakers Friday and the Hornets on Sunday. So he probably will make his debut Tuesday night at home against the Knicks.
What a mess. We spent a lot of time on it, but I think in conclusion, final chapter not written here. And let's just see. Let's see what the NBA does. This is where, I mean, for so many years, we don't have to go down this rabbit hole. The players have controlled almost every aspect of the NBA, including the coverage of it and how they're going to handle dealing with media enemies, if you will. We see this with Kevin Durant right now going back and forth with Stephen A. Smith publicly. The NBA is not going to rein this in because the players, LeBron included, Steph Curry, others, they're the ones running the show with the media. They are the product. But give me your thought on that, and then we'll move on.
Well, let me ask you this. Apparently, the team apologized to Marcus Hayes. He is not receiving any punishment here, as we know. Do you think that that's just? If you're Joel Embiid, are you saying you apologize to this guy?
Okay,
I mean,
he wrote what he wrote. It was wrong. Embiid confronted him and physically intimidated him. And if the retaliation is that the Sixers players are saying, we're not helping this guy anymore, we're not talking to him, which is their right. The NBA and the Sixers can't force the players to go help that guy or talk to that guy. And so I think that, I think this is punishment enough. And as you mentioned, he's kind of going around on media interviews, etc. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be up to the Inquirer. Does the Inquirer want to do anything? But from what you're saying, they don't really believe he did anything wrong, much less rising to the level of a suspension.
From my understanding, the Inquirer is not happy. I don't know enough about it to speak on.
But they haven't done anything as of Tuesday night. So
no, that's what I'm saying.
With him. Yeah. So, all right, stay tuned on the Embiid story. So, again, in my mini roles, you see the hat back over that shoulder, actually, is part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers radio broadcast. And we were part of Monday Night Football last night. Yet another Mike Gill heartbreaking overtime game on standalone national TV for the Bucs after losing on Thursday night to the Atlanta Falcons in overtime. Now lose to that Mahomes guy, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift squeeze, Andy Reid, those guys. It was some scene at Arrowhead Stadium. Once again, ESPN, I think, empties out Bristol, Connecticut, and New York with almost every available production person, technical person, and about half their talent is on hand at Monday Night Football. I'm standing down on the sideline in the fourth quarter in the closing minutes with Scott Van Pelt right by me, Mike Gill, as well as Jason Kelce, Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark, because it was raining, was standing in front of me with an umbrella trying to take a video right in front of me while the Chiefs are about to score a touchdown. I'm just saying this on the Last Word on Sports Media podcast. I came within a half second of saying to him, back up with the umbrella, because he's literally standing in front of me with an umbrella. They aren't allowed down there fundamentally, but much less can you be in front of working people holding your umbrella trying to take a video. I don't know Ryan Clark, but we almost had a professional moment there where I said, get out of the way.
Would you have been physical and shoved him?
I would not have. I just would have said, can you move out of the way with the umbrella? We're all trying to see this, because it wasn't just me. There were a couple of other people that are down there trying to see the final play, if that's what it's going to be. Kansas City scores on the Kareem Hunt run. Fun, not so fun post-game locker room for TJ on Buccaneers radio trying to get interviews. But
funny, because where you are, they're saying go for two. Where I am, they're saying take the points.
Right.
Nick Sirianni's getting slammed he went for 3 2-point plays and didn't get any of them. And then on fourth down, he went twice and went 0 for 2. Then there was a opportunity to late in the game punt the ball away. He elects to take a 58-yard field goal, and they missed it and almost lost the game to Jacksonville.
We were watching that game. We were watching that game in Kansas City. We flew in the afternoon, and we were watching that game, and it was dumbfounding that they were going for 2 that early needlessly. And what it meant was that late in the game, Jacksonville only needed a touchdown to win the game, because he screwed up the math with continually going for 2.
Well, that's just, that's their philosophy. They say if the ball is on the 1 yard line, go for two. And that's what happened all three times. The ball ended up getting placed on the one because of a penalty.
Because of a penalty, right? Well, look, Troy Aikman said in real time, and we love him for his insight and his criticism on Monday Night Football with Joe Buck, that the Bucs should contemplate going for two. I was saying off the air, I don't get paid to coach. Don't you want to go for two here? But then again, there's 27 seconds left in the game for that Mahomes guy and 3 timeouts. There's no guarantee that they don't go right down and kick a field goal and beat you anyway. So it was Arrowhead is loud. I like to say it's a 4 Advil game, Mike Gill, 2 before the game, 2 after the game with your ears ringing. It was loud.
Well, there was no need to call timeout with 30 seconds left. That was one of the problems. There wouldn't have been 27 seconds left had Bowles not called timeout. That was a mistake as well. He mismanaged the clock in that situation as well. But 20 million people watched all this because the ratings, big time, 20 million number on that Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, and they said the final number's not in. Were they, I don't know this, were they also not showing it on ABC, or was this when ESPN and the Manning cast on ESPN2, only on ESPN for the main feed? I'm not sure which. But still, Mahomes is going to draw with the Chiefs an extra 3 or 4 million for Monday Night Football. What did I see that PR piece that they put out from ESPN said it was like 25% more audience than Week 9 last year that didn't have Mahomes or the Cowboys in the game. So that's interesting. It was a tough locker room, a late night. Mike, we flew all night, didn't get back to Tampa at almost 5 a.m. I'm working on about 2 or 3 hours sleep as we go into election night tonight as part of the Last Word on Sports Media podcast. We're doing this live, or if you're hearing us in podcast form, that's what's up here on this Tuesday. So we got a chance to see Atlanta bludgeon the Cowboys, who seem to be circling the drain right now with the injury to Dak Prescott and another loss. So we saw that early on Fox. The late game was the Lions decisively beating the Packers. But again, we don't know. There's the ESPN number for their viewers Monday, their preliminary number. We don't know what the audiences were for Fox or CBS to this point, even on Tuesday night right now. CBS showed a lot of the country the Ravens wiping out the Denver Broncos with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Sunday night game was competitive, but it was Minnesota, Indianapolis. I don't know what kind of number that got. Remember last week, Mike, the Cowboys and 49ers got close to 24 million. They'll be lucky if that number was 20 million for Vikings and Colts. Not the same kind of matchup. So we'll wait to see the numbers for the NFL. But any other thought on the NFL weekend, just real quick while we're here?
Well, real quick, that graphic seemed to say that ABC was involved in all of that because I think that game was on both ABC and ESPN. So that's that. I had Andrew Catalon, Tiki Barber, and McCourty. Jason McCourty do my game there. Here in this market, I thought Andrew Catalon did a really nice job. The 3-man booth is a little weird of why McCourty and Tiki Barber. I know Barber was in with Matt Ryan last year, but why a 3-man booth in that situation? It seemed a little clunky at times. McCourty and Tiki have similar sound to them, but it wasn't like a bad listen. It seemed like a lot going on. I do like Andrew Catalon. I thought he did a nice job there. That was the game that I had in this market. I also had the Washington Giant game, which was Chris Myers and Mark Sanchez. I seemingly keep getting the sixth team sent to me.
So they were showing those NFC East teams and not the Cowboys and the Falcons, which much of the country saw early with Adam Amin filling in for Joe Davis and Greg Olsen in the number 2 crew. And Atlanta now has stepped to the forefront. I'm curious what that number was. And again, the Detroit Green Bay game was not a good game, but it probably got 20 million on Fox. And look, the bottom line is it was a great lead in. What a finish with the Rams and the Seahawks, the final game of Sunday before the Sunday night game of all the barrage of early 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. starts was a great Seattle Rams game won by the Rams in overtime on the bomb by Matthew Stafford when they could have kicked a field goal and won if they threw the touchdown. And I was saying this for Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma. You talk about the 5th crew, the 4th crew, the 5th crew. Typically, they're not getting more than a few million people to watch in a regional broadcast, but they had such a great lead-in audience, I'm sure, for most of the country seeing the Lions and Packers that when that game ended and they went to the game in Seattle, those guys easily had 15 million, if not 20 million, watching the finish of that game, the final 15, 20 minutes of overtime and how it ended. with the Rams victory. The NFL is king. We definitely know that. All right, so what else? Again, we're awaiting the college football ratings. We had an Oregon at Michigan game on CBS. Florida, Georgia was the ABC game at the same time. Mike, I think that noon game probably got 10 million, Ohio State, Penn State on Fox. But I don't know about the rest of the ratings. You want to go over the announcers real quick on this election night?
While we're taking a look at this, you've got Burkhart and Tom Brady. They're getting a Tampa Bay, so you're going to get to see Tampa Tom.
Correct.
He's got that game against the Niners. He'll be back in Tampa. Not a great game, by the way. Niners, Buccaneers. Yeah.
Niners off the bye week. He's worked the Niners a couple of times already this season, but again, it's an early game out west for the Western markets. I don't know what kind of audience they're going to get. Keep going.
Well, there's not a great Fox slate. You got Patriots, Bears with Kugler and Daryl Johnson, Falcons, Saints, Joe Davis, Greg Olson, Vikings, Jags, Adam Amin, and Mark Sanchez, and then Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma. They got Titans, Chargers. So that's the Fox slate of games for you on Sunday.
All right. And again, Tom Brady, former Buccaneer, we do say this, former Buccaneer Super Bowl winning quarterback. Just in the last 3 or 4 years here, and played as recently as 2022. He's the answer to the trivia question, by the way. The only Cowboy road playoff win this century is against Tom Brady and the Bucs to end his career. His final game is a loss on that. And again, I know you're going to pull up the CBS announced crews as well with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Where are they working later this week while we go over this? What's their main game?
They're on the Eagles game this week. I do know that. Philadelphia, and I'm going to pull the graphic up here in just a second. It's Philadelphia and Dallas is the big game this weekend. Of course,
and that's old school CBS from the 70s, 80s, and before Fox got the games. They always had the big NFC games, but now they've blended this together. So that game at 425, that's easily going to have 20 million, 21 million, 23 million, something like that, even though the Cowboys are bad. So that'll be the late game on CBS, right?
Yeah, you got that. 425 is the Nance Romo. You're right. CBS, this is like an old school, like 1988 Pat Summerall, John Madden game with the Eagles and the Cowboys. Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, Steelers, and the Commanders. That might be the game of the day there. You got Broncos and Chiefs, Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Bills, Colts, Andrew Catalon, Tiki Barber, McCourty. That's the pairing that I got last week. And then Spiro Deeds and Adam Archuleta, they have Jets and Cardinals. So the Eagle game, that's the national game for CBS this week. And I would imagine does very well. Although Cooper Rush is the quarterback, you do not get Dak Prescott. But Eagles, Cowboys draw.
Hey, Kevin Harlan was tremendous on Bills Dolphins with that call and the 61-yard field goal. And a shout out also to Jason Benetti and Mark Schlereth on the drama of the bad Titans and the bad Patriots that went to overtime, eventually won by the Titans. And then again, Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma in a great step-up spot calling that last late Sunday game on Fox with the Rams and the Seahawks. So a shout out to some of those announcers. By the way, while we've been doing this live version of the Last Word on Sports Media podcast, we'll be here a couple more minutes. The college football playoff bracket is out for the first time. They have just released this on ESPN on the live release. It's no surprise that the top teams are Georgia, Miami, Oregon, and BYU. Those are the 4 teams that would get the buys. And then they plugged in their bracket, Ohio State would be playing Boise State. Indiana would be playing Tennessee. Alabama would be playing Texas, and Notre Dame would be playing Penn State right now as the first round 4 games that would be played. Now, a couple of important distinctions. Their rankings only have so much relevance because the automatic conference championship game winner may be lower ranked than another team, but they're going to end up getting the bye for winning the championship game as an incentive. So these ratings are great when you see the college football playoff rankings and they're saying who's ranked whatever. Just bear in mind for the SEC, the ACC, the Big 10, and the Big 12, if you win the championship game, you end up getting the bye into the next weekend of the playoffs, and a team seated higher than you in the college football playoff rankings may be playing that first weekend. So just keep that in mind along the way. But Mike, any initial reaction to the top 4 as expected, Georgia, Oregon, Miami, BYU, they're all undefeated. That's the top 4 that would have a bye right now. And ESPN controls this thing beginning to end because they throw out huge money for the early season matchups that help strength of schedule. They're televising the playoff, although Fox has got a couple of the playoff games coming up. This is their product through and through, including the ratings reveal is their exclusive ratings reveal. It's been going on this Tuesday night.
Well, when we look at it from our vantage point, is a Boise State, Ohio State game doing anything for the TV markets? Yeah. Indiana, Tennessee, anybody jumping in front of the television for that? Yeah. Alabama, Texas, it's an SEC game again. Now, so maybe those 2 teams have a pretty big following. Notre Dame, Penn State, you got 2 old school, like 1980s powers there. They might have a little bit of draw. Getting BYU in the top 4, I can't imagine the TV markets would be thrilled with them.
Right.
I always said from the get-go, the 12-team thing, it's not a TV draw. And we saw this, that nobody wanted these games. Who wants these games? Where are they going, to TBS or TNT? They're like outsourcing the games from ESPN. Who wants it? Nobody cares. Those matchups are okay. Penn State, Notre Dame will do well. Texas, Alabama. But as it keeps going, I think you got 2 weeks of games that just are meh.
It's the first time they're trying this. They've broadened it out from 4 teams to 12 teams. And so those ratings reveals are going to continue, and we'll see who ends up being. And we know this is going to get jumbled up and changed by losses. And eventually there'll be a couple of SEC teams probably in that Final 4 somehow. Well, again, it can't be in the 4 of the buys for the reason I explained. But the SEC and Big Ten will easily have 3 each, if not 4 of the teams in the playoff, just because they're that highly ranked. To be pushed in. All right, we've got to get out of here shortly. By the way, for all the games and all the action this weekend, like Mike was talking about, that Dallas, Philadelphia NFL game, for any of these other matchups that are going to be ongoing in the NFL or college football, Ticket Smarter is our sponsor, and the Ticket Smarter mobile app. Again, it is easy, convenient. Takes a couple of minutes to sign up. Best prices on the secondary market with their algorithms. And your purchase is safe and secure. Use the promo code LWOS20 and take $20 off your order of $300 or more. I was looking around at the lower level seats in Arrowhead going, I know on a Monday night, the Bucs aren't the biggest draw, but those are easily probably $400 or $500 a ticket in the lower level in between the 20-yard lines on each side of Arrowhead Stadium. Use the Ticket Smarter promo code LWOS20 and save. I'm just looking at a couple of the other college marquee games, if there are any per se. Let's see, Alabama LSU is the huge one in Baton Rouge. Use the Ticket Smarter mobile app if you've got friends, acquaintances that are trying to go to that game. Use the mobile app. Indiana, Michigan suddenly has huge relevance for Indiana, that's for sure. The big noon game, they're right back with Ohio State and Purdue on Fox at the Horseshoe. Florida at Texas in Austin. I'm looking for if there's a big game really in the West. That it doesn't. BYU and Utah in the Holy War. BYU's undefeated. Again, use the Ticket Smarter mobile app for all these games, the NBA, concerts, promo code LWOS20. They're a sponsor of ours on the Last Word on Sports Media podcast. Anything in closing, Mike Gill, before we get to the election results and returns? We already used what phrases that we only hear around political time: too close to call, did well with women. That's another one. What else are some of the lines that we only hear around election time? I'm trying turnout. We only hear turnout. Turnout doesn't seem to apply to anything else. Where you're talking about the workforce, attendance at a game, you only hear turnout around voting. So you'll hear, turnout was strong. Turnout was strong in this county. Turnout was strong in this state, Mike.
I see our audience keeps growing and growing, but you're going to have the polls closed and some projections at 8 o'clock here. So we'll try to get people out. A couple things. Tom Brady. Right
now, everything is too close to call. And it depends on how do they do with women.
Oh, no, they've
and what's the turnout?
Trump is up 23-3 right now. So there are some that are not too close to call.
But you know what? It's like an early NBA game that's 4-2. That score is going to change in the Electoral College, subject to change.
Yeah, yes. He's won West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana, and Harris has won Vermont.
So there we go. Let's hear it.
Anyway,
let's hear it for that. So turnout will be big. Do we have any other political phrases? I'm trying to think. I don't know. I think we're good.
Yeah, the one Tom Brady apparently was critical of the officials in the game the other day, and the NFL though said he didn't cross the threshold. I don't know how they're going to keep doing this. This is a dog and pony show.
This is the Detroit Green Bay game, and was this on the ejection of Brian Branch, the safety who came over and blasted the Packer? Did you see this play? I know you were paying more attention to Eagles and Jaguars, but he blasted the Packer receiver after the play, and he's been a dirty player earlier this year a couple of times, and the New York Command Center told the refs at Lambeau, eject him. On behalf of the league, this was not the officials on the field, and that's where Brady spoke up and said, I don't agree that that's worthy of kicking him out of the rest of the game because it was in the first half. So I'm sure that's what it was.
And the NFL basically said he didn't do anything, wrong. But that whole thing is this is going to be murky the whole time. This is going to keep being stuff like this.
You're talking about Brady on the number one crew on Fox.
Yeah, not being able to make comments or be critical of players of other, if they're playing Denver and Knicks has a bad throw and he says, this guy's just not prepared, he's not ready. Does Denver say, hey, the owner of the Raiders just said my quarterback's not prepared or ready?
Welcome to what you interwove when you allowed him to be an owner and still be a broadcaster. And maybe it comes to the point where he has to give up. Maybe he has to give up that ownership. He's not, I'm telling you, Mike, he's not giving up the TV gig and the 30+ million to work the football season, at least for a couple of years. They have the super year, and I believe he'll work at least a couple of years. Is he still there in 2026, 2027? That's a better debate. 2 years from now, 3 years from now. But I think for right now, they're going to go along, but maybe they have to draw the line with him being an owner and being critical.
Jason Kelce apologized to open the broadcast last night. It was a little awkward. I feel like he probably asked to just say, can I get this out of the way?
My understanding, because it buzzed through the press box, is that was the league and ESPN saying this needs to be addressed at the beginning of this pregame show because it's everywhere on the internet that he's threatening this fan with the cell phone, knocking the cell phone out of his hand. And if you're going to sit there on national TV and act like it didn't happen when it's been viewed millions of times on the internet. So my understanding, and this is typical, go ahead and announce whatever you want to announce. Apologize if you want to apologize. And that was done because all through the Arrowhead press box, they were saying, and I did not see it, they were saying, well, Kelce just apologized for the stuff with the cell phone on the ESPN set. So that was buzzing around the press box. Pick it up on whatever else you got there.
Kelce is one of the most popular figures ever in Philadelphia. Okay, the guy can walk on water. They won a Super Bowl. He came to the parade dressed like a mummer. You might not know what a mummer is, but in these parts on New Year's Day, there's a New Year's parade, and there's these, they look like jesters almost. They wear these gaudy outfits, and he dressed like a like a mummer and basically made a speech that made him a legendary figure. I don't think he understands the level of fame he now has because of who his brother is dating.
Right.
I don't think he asked for any of this. And I think it's gotten so big that he just broke. I mean, there was a moment this summer in my hometown where I don't know if anybody saw this, but like a woman started yelling at his wife because she wouldn't take a picture.
Yes.
And I said, like, okay, people know who he is walking down Landis Avenue in Sea Isle City. Like, okay, he's Jason Kelce of the Eagles. But if you put Landis Avenue in Tampa, Florida now, everyone's going to know this guy. And I don't think he's walking at a college football tailgate with no security with a case of beer under his arm. Now, what the kid said is completely inappropriate and outlandish. And he's lucky he didn't get punched in the face. He got his phone broken.
Right.
But I feel for Kelce. I feel like he's like, I didn't ask for any of this.
The only thing I'm going to say is you are asking for the public to watch. You're getting paid millions and millions of dollars, not only to be on ESPN, but all the commercials that you're on. And so part of the trade-off for that is your private life is not private anymore. Your ability to walk around in public is not your own anymore. I like your point. Maybe you have somebody with you, security, to help when you're around people, crowds, or whatever. But I have zero sympathy if you're taking all of that money and wanting to be that public out in front, much less the money that Aikman's making, the money that Tom Brady and Tony Romo were making, Chris Collinsworth are making, all the way at the top rung in NFL broadcasting. If you're that public and that wealthy because of it, you got to take whatever the criticism is.
100%.
For being that public. Now, if the line is crossed, if people are threatening you and that kind of thing, that's different. So I agree. I agree.
I agree. I just am saying I don't. I think Kelce is remorseful. I think he feels terrible, and I think it's one of these things where
I hear in your voice you think it might drive him eventually out of doing this because he doesn't need it. Is that what I'm sensing?
No.
I'm not saying right now. I feel like it's a moment. I'm saying maybe he takes a moment after this season and says, "I don't have to keep doing ESPN. I don't have to keep doing this stuff." You don't think so?
I feel like it's a moment that he realized that he's much bigger than maybe he wants to be or realized. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, yeah, and the fame,
look, he
overwhelms some. Yes.
Jason likes. He's not. He was in WrestleMania. I mean, he showed up at WrestleMania. He does all sorts of events, but I think he handled being Philadelphia famous, which is a different style of famous, man. These people
than the national famous, right?
Yeah, exactly. And now he's at Penn State, so a lot of people know him there too. There's another thing, I think the kid is trying to become internet famous. I'm the guy who Jason Kelce broke my phone.
Sure.
Or I'm the guy who Jason Kelce, he punched me in my face. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's a whole world of people trying to get their 15 minutes of fame. So Kelce, I think this moment hit him as people are trying to get famous off of me because I'm that famous now.
Yep. All right. Well, good debates on all these topics. Did we cover everything we needed to cover here on the Last Word on Sports Media podcast?
If not, we have a daily tomorrow.
You will man the daily tomorrow. Will we have a presidential winner tomorrow?
No.
I don't think. There's so many states. Here it comes again. Too close to call. And several of them have already said, including Pennsylvania by you, Michigan, Arizona, it's going to take days, plural, to sort it out and count all the votes. So if it is a close electoral math, we may be waiting until Thursday or longer, and that's ridiculous, by the way.
Well, I worked on the 2020 2000 election, and that took how many days? Weeks,
correct.
Months. So,
and in Florida got ridiculed to no end. And I will say again what I've been saying everywhere else: Florida will have all of their votes counted with their system coming up tonight around 11 Eastern time, maybe a little later, but there you go. Meanwhile, in Phoenix, they may be counting until next week, especially in Maricopa County, which is Phoenix.
Yeah, I do agree that it's preposterous that the vote comes in and it's not tabulated and there's some sort of running count. It's unfathomable to me that.
Well, that's what Florida does. Florida goes ahead and counts the early voting and goes ahead and counts the absentee voting, and then they plug in everything that happens tonight. And these other states, by and large, aren't doing that. That's why it takes them forever. But we both agree. And anybody that's reasonable has to agree. You compromise the integrity of the process if you're going into Wednesday night, Thursday, and have results. I'm not just talking about the presidential election. In Arizona 2 years ago, they went over a week with a governor's race, a senator's race. That is unacceptable in the 2020s at this point.
I saw last night there's a town in New Hampshire that votes at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Population sticks. They voted and then read the results off right then and there.
That's right.
And you had there's 6 votes, and we'll leave it this.
The key part of that is it's 6, not 6
we'll
million.
Leave it this. They counted the votes. The 6 people in the town. 3 for Harris.
3 for Trump. 3. Nothing's decided. Flip a coin. All right, listen, great stuff here. They're about to start kicking out more election results. After the top of the hours, we've done this live on Tuesday. If you're hearing us in podcast form, wherever you're hearing us and whenever you're hearing it, Mike will be back with the daily Monday through Friday middays. We did a special Tuesday night, election night live pod. Mike, because I had such a late night in Kansas City and work duties earlier today that we had to do this after his radio show. Check him out on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN in Atlantic City in the greater Philadelphia market. Mike Gill, great stuff here on the Last Word on Sports Media podcast. We covered a lot of different subjects, a lot of different opinions. We got newsmakers on this feed, the daily on this feed. All good. Thank you, Mike Gill.
We'll talk to everybody on the daily tomorrow.
We thank you for being with us. I'm merely TJ Rives on the Last Word on Sports Media podcast.